world where QR codes kill kittens and customer service is an oxymoron, one podcast has set out to make things right. This is the UnPodcast.
With your hosts, Scott Stratton and Alison Stratton as well. With your hosts. I think I've told this story 6 times. When we got the movie voiceover guy.
I love how you don't stop.
No.
I think I've told this story 6 times and then it...
100%, yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Please continue. 7th time.
Is getting that movie voice for setting up the... We talked about this last week, right? Because you're working on something. And we're setting stuff up, right?
Yeah.
So this is fun because it's fun to see different logos a designer makes. It's fun to try different. Well, for the show, one of the fun things is figuring out the intro.
Absolutely.
And always, no matter what, the one thing I was sure of with the show was there was 2 things.
Okay.
One, we'd rule. It'd be just so much fun, right? We just enjoy it, regardless if we had 2 listeners or 2,000 or 20,000. Doesn't matter. It was going to be great. The second is we're using movie trailer voice guy for the trailer.
You were very committed right away to the movie voice.
So I got to go hunt it down, find the agency, got to listen to a couple of voiceover artists do it, and we found one who was like really like this movie trailer guy, like you hear at the start. And so I put in, and of course, here's the thing. I don't know how much it costs because we've never done this before, but there's no reason not to do it.
Yeah.
So I first went and said, what we should do for the intro. I don't know if we've told everybody this part of the story. Originally, I wanted to use Twisted Sister, We're Not Gonna Take It.
Oh, even I don't remember that.
Okay, this is the intro.
Okay.
So this is the intro song I thought was perfect for the show. We're Not Gonna Take It, business show for the fed up. And then so I had to find out. So I reached out to Universal Music.
Okay.
Right, you write out and say, I would like to use this show, this show. But since we've been, since 2015 with this show, so 2013, 2014, we're going into this and finding this stuff out. And they have no idea how to price a podcast intro.
Oh, because it was really like a long time ago.
They're like, of course we can do that. By the way, what's a podcast? And you're like, oh, it's audio. You're like, okay, so for radio, you're like, no, we're not. It's not.
Yeah, it's not.
They're like, well, is it terrestrial? I'm like, ET? Like, what are we talking about here? What do you mean terrestrial? Like, this is not my world.
Yeah.
What we'd like to do is have a show, and at the start, it'll go, now we're going to get sued if we keep going. But it's the opening of the song, and we're just going to have it the intro, and just let us know the cost. And like, okay, here's 76 forms to fill out.
Yeah, I think it's probably
And this year, and we're like, you know what? Let's go down the royalty-free road for music here. So we go to a bunch of sites, and that's fun as well. But we're like, okay, we need a voiceover. So we did it. Got the information. I'm just giddy to be able to do this. So exciting.
It was really exciting.
And they write back and they're like, okay, well, and it's very not a lot of text, right? So it's an intro and an outro. And I was booking them for this, and we also did a limited series of the Vegas 30.
Yeah, that's right.
So we used 2 shows using the same person. And for this person, it'll be about 10, 15 minutes of work.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, whatever you quote is the quote. So they come back and they say, all right, well, I know it's for a little short, but they have minimums. So it's going to be, it's actually going to be an entire $500.
Oh, wow. That's a big
investment. And I immediately wrote back and said, let me know how to send payment. And the person, which is to their credit, wrote back and said, I think I quoted too low.
That was too quick. This gentleman has decided to go ahead with his purchase.
which is very suspect. It's very suspect you were happy with the cost. I had misthought this entire interaction.
It's funny.
And it was that point. And then we got it back, and you're just like,
yeah,
it
was really cool.
But then we got married and changed names, and then we're just like, well, then we can't have those names there.
So now you have to say them at the beginning of each podcast, which I think is better.
Speaking of podcasts, let's jump in.
So this is from LinkedIn, and it was really cool. It was something that you shared, you reposted on LinkedIn from a friend of ours and a friend of the UnPodcast, the Best Friends Animal Society. And, Julie Castle is someone we interviewed in On Leadership. She's the CEO of Best Friends, and also...
And I spoke at the main
That's right, and you
well.
spoke at their conference, and Tessa and I have been there several times. To visit in the summer, something we've talked about a few times on the show in the past. So Best Friends shared, and this is what's interesting about this is it's all based on data that they've done in their shelters. So it's a big network of animal shelters in the United States. Yeah. So not all hours are created equal. Get 20% more adoptions with this small shift. The data is in. Shelters with a higher percentage of weekend and evening hours also have higher adoption rates. which makes sense since that's when people are more likely to be able to come and meet the animals. These are percentages of overall hours, not shelters adding on more hours. So what they found was they looked at when adoptions were taking place, and because people need to be able to come into the shelter, and people generally have to work during the day, during the week, they were finding that they were having less people come into the animal shelter during the day and having more people come in on the weekends and evenings, which makes sense. Except that because they're also a workplace, they were also bringing people in during working hours.
Yeah.
And so they had less staff, or some might be closed, let's say, maybe the Saturday or the Sunday, or they might have limited staff on. And they did the data, and they showed that if you even shifted 2 days, so let's say if you're closed on the weekend, instead of being closed on the weekend, you're closed Wednesday and Thursday, let's say, and you staff the shelter on the weekends instead, or you add those hours. So they're not suggesting that they add hours. They're suggesting they shift the hours around. That they found that you could raise your adoption by up to 72%, which is like a ton. And so it says if a shelter has about 1,000 animals, that would be 240 animals more going home.
Incredible.
Which is, a really big impact. And I'm not sure. I wanted to ask you why you initially shared it, but to me, what really struck me reading this was how I like the idea of the hybridity. That was sort of the first thing that popped in my head, because I remember there have definitely been times where it would be easier to work on the weekend, let's say, or easier to work in the evening if you need to be
depending your life,
home or doing other things during the day. And so to me, I was thinking like I really like the flexibility of maybe being able to still have that full-time job, right?
Yeah.
But your weekends are sort of the time that you work. So I thought that was interesting. And I like that it was data, right, that was being used in a way to improve, and also that they were sharing it. Like publicly, right? So this is the kind of thing they're sharing with all animal shelters, not just Best Friends animal shelters.
And I think that you have to take into account when you look at things, because one of the reasons I shared this was for people to look at it beyond the animal shelter.
Yeah.
And just say, if I'm in a business that depends on people coming to a physical location for it, and that could be 1,000 different businesses, right? Yeah. It could be an animal shelter, it could be a dentist, it could be anything where I also physically have to go somewhere. We have to take a look at, obviously, when we're doing hours. Because when I look at this, part of my brain is like, well, you're open when people can come, but you don't see that. So when you're in the middle of...
And everyone wants that, and everyone has to go to work. Like, we can't all be, right?
So here's the problem. It's just like, so then why do shelter volunteers a lot of the time as well say, well, no, now you got to work evenings and weekends too?
Yeah.
Because also, I don't know if you know this, but people running a shelter, especially when they're not the bigger ones, they're already doing it 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, because the
animals.
the animal side of it, they don't turn off at 5 p.m. when the shelter closes. There's somebody there the entire time. There's people with them the entire time. So outside of having animals in your care, what happens if I run a dental practice? What's one of the things that always threw me growing up was like, by the way, never complained missing school, but I had to leave school to go to the dentist. And I'm like, why are they just open after school?
Yeah.
Right? It was the whole thing was why would you
because
not
the
be going
dentist
to-
has kids in school too.
Right. So part of that, and then but it does bring to the next thing, which is the flip of it. There's also people who rather work the weekend or rather work the evening or work the holiday. This would always happen at the movie theater back in the day. We'd have it. I always wanted to work Boxing Day. I always wanted to work Easter. Mostly because it was double time and a half pay.
Yeah.
Where I get paid a bunch more than I was at the time. And, my $4.85 an hour turned into $11 an hour.
Amazing.
And then I could buy a house.
Yeah.
Like that was then.
That's how we did it.
Totally different. They're like, I can get away from a family function of cousins I don't know and just work with my buddies at the. Yeah, please, thank you, and I'll make royalty money, like I will have
royalty.
I don't even mean book royalty. I mean the king and queen level of things. Like I was gonna have people with pawn fronds and stuff at that point. And so understanding that different things in different cultures also have different times and days that are really important. And so understanding that, because it's also a very kind of North American thing to be able to say it's only like this, and have it, not understanding part of where life and business happens in different circles at different times.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing I think that people would want to look at.
I think even not in person. I think like when you think about, there are a lot of services as we've moved things to be more online. They're online, but they're live.
Right.
Right.
100%.
And so it's also sort of like, when are you going to be available? How do you figure it out? I like that they use data, for example.
Yeah.
Like the only data we talk about this, I think in Unselling maybe, that the only data that's really important is the data that you've done for your business with your customers, right? And so how are you measuring? How are you taking? Do you even know when your customers buy your product? Like, have you done the research that best friends have done, and then using the data that you find for your business and your customers?
Because you can use the data that you've done improperly as well to be also say that, oh, well, this is how banks end up closing branches.
Yeah, no one uses it.
Nobody's using it.
Yeah.
You're not open when I can come.
Yeah.
Right? They call it banker's hours for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? And they're still like, well, we can't, you're not, well, have it evenings and weekends then. Yeah. That's the difference. And here's the thing that people don't think about sometimes too. If you're asking of somebody something, for example, if you're trying to hire somebody for your company and you're doing interviews, do you do interviews evenings and weekends? Because if somebody's currently working, do you know how hard it is for them to find the time to do an interview with you and that current workplace not finding out? And besides that, to keep this rant going in a direction we weren't even going to go, if we're going to ask people to do an interview and they can't tell their current employer, obviously, because they don't really take kindly to you wanting to leave, why are we also asking for 3 working references? Something
to think about.
Why are we asking for these working references when they can't tell their current work they're leaving right now? And if so, if we do ask them, does your company does they give them out? Do you give out references if you don't ask for them? So I'm going down a train and a rant that I don't want to go. But it is looking back and saying, respecting time, but also understanding where the available time is for these type of things. It's I think a very, very important thing. I'm thinking about time and where we go. Let's talk about out-of-touch CEOs. In a world of out-of-touch CEOs, and we haven't even touched, nor we're going to talk about this episode of the McDonald's CEO who couldn't eat the new burger they had like a normal human being. I don't know if you've seen the video.
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah. That'll be next episode. Don't worry. We're going to see the alien not knowing it. He called the burger, first of all, product, which is hilarious. Our new product. Nobody says that. And then he took a bite as if it made Zuckerberg look human. Would that make sense? Is that a good comparison? If
I don't
you saw
know.
him, you're like, Zuck, man, do you want to hang out? Because that was not cool.
I haven't seen him eat the product, but it doesn't sound great.
Mark, how much is a chocolate bar? I think $900. I don't know. Okay, so Dropbox CEO slams return to office mandates, compares them to outdated malls and theaters. So we like Dropbox and we like the CEO. Why? For things like this. Dropbox boss Drew Houston compared return to office mandates to trying to force people back into malls and movie theaters. Speaking on an episode of Fortune's Leadership Next podcast, Houston said what most people have long thought, that returning to the office is a waste of time and money when employees can do exactly the same tasks at home. Quote, we can be a lot less dumb than forcing people back into a car 3 days a week or whatever to literally be back on the same Zoom meeting they would have been at home. There's a better way to do this. Dropbox remains one of the few companies that has continued to embrace a virtual-first approach following the end of lockdowns. As reported by Business Insider, Dropbox introduced a 90-10 rule in 2021 where employees work from home about 90% of the year and attend a small number of off-site events for the remaining 10%. Quote, forcing people back to the office is probably going to be like trying to force people back into malls and movie theaters. Houston said, nothing wrong with the movie theater, but it's just a different world now. In 2023, he called it the keys that unlocked this whole future of work was remote work. You need a different social contract and to let go of control. But if you trust people and treat them like adults, they'll behave like adults. Trust over surveillance. Oh, that is so good.
I love having good CEOs. It's so nice.
I'm going to read that again. You need a different social contract and to let go of control. But if you trust people and treat them like adults, they'll behave like adults. Trust over surveillance.
Nice.
Hell to the yes for all of that. This is part of the issue. And we've, in the past year, in time, we have had different opportunities to speak with leaders at events and different things. And we've had some interesting discussions with some of them. And I want to just mention one real quick I had, and I won't obviously mention the person, the name, or the event, but we were talking about this such topic because I'm passionate about this.
Yeah.
And the ridiculousness of forcing a return to office when we prove to you in the middle of a pandemic that not only can we be workable, but actually more profitable. And this is what it comes down to. It's control. Hugely control. So one of the things I talk about is one of the studies that recently came out was roughly 78% of surveyed people would prefer to remotely work. 78%. I have never read a study on this show, I think, that had a number that's at 78. It's so high.
It's pretty high.
It's such a high number. So now I'm just like, I can look a CEO in the face when they give whatever BS they're talking about why everybody returned to their office. I can look at them and say 78% of humans would prefer not to. And watch how they react back. Well, this one CEO of a giant Canadian company says to me, and I quote, "Well, Scott," because he's preparing to teach me.
I love when people
You know
teach
those surveys, and he kind of just flew the hands around a bit.
Yeah.
You know those surveys, maybe some air quotes were in there. People say, I can't even say this straight. Here, okay. People say, stuff that's kind of pie in the sky.
Pie in the sky.
Stuff they want, but it's not going to. If you gave a survey to employees and said, "Would you just like to make money and not work?" They'd all say yes.
It's not really what we asked, though, is it, sir?
So, of course, people are going to say what they can't have. And there it is.
Yeah.
You can't have work from home because an executive in your company says so. That's it, by the way. All of you watching and listening now, the reason some of you still have to commute 5 days a week, by the way. The Dropbox CEO is saying like 3 days or whatever, because he can't even comprehend a company saying 5 days a week. Because in the middle of that conversation I was having with that person, another executive leaned in and made sure I knew I was on his side. He's like, yeah, we only do 3 days a week. That's cool. Like hybrid's cool, right? And I turned to him, I'm like, absolutely not. But of course it is. Because you're just trying to justify yourself. And people didn't understand this. And here's the thing. 78% of people, but 100% of people who want to keep their job will agree with whatever their leadership says.
Yep.
Culture is driven top down and felt bottom up. And do you know what the bottom is saying to you if you were listening? That quote, "You need a different social contract and to let go of control because it's about control. Nothing else. You are more profitable working from home, both to the company and yourself. On average, it saves people $800 a month.
That's
$800 a month if they can work remotely. You're giving somebody a $10,000 raise without giving it to them, without costing you an extra penny. That should make every single executive just lose their mind excited. They can give without actually having to give anything out of their pocket. It's their main way of doing life, a lot of people, right? As long as it doesn't cost me anything, maybe we can do that, maybe. These are people you've hired that you claim you trust. Like, do you hire morons? If you hire morons, then of course I need to supervise said morons because they're morons. If they're not morons, then they're adults who understand something, that they have responsibility and a job to do.
Yeah.
But their job isn't being a human support animal coming into the office 5 days a week. For somebody to sit there and say, well, if you ask them if they just wanted to get paid and not work at all, they'd all say yes too. Working remotely is not a pie in the sky idea. It's literally 5 years ago, the best idea possible. If you're not doing it now, I don't understand. I am sorry for that rant. That was
No, I just hope the camera doesn't sit on me because I just had this big smile on my face watching you just absolutely going around. It was fantastic. And I think I know why. I think I have a why for you.
Go.
Okay.
Go. Voice is gone.
Post-rant voice.
Post-rant, 4 days of a cold, voice gone.
Why the office mandates? For many companies, it's all about real estate. It turns out the return to office movement isn't just about productivity, collaboration, or company culture. For a significant number of companies, it's about leases. Those binding long-term commitments to office spaces that are now sitting underused while hybrid work proves its staying power. A recent resume.org survey of 900 business leaders peels back the polished justifications for workplace mandates and reveals the financial tether that's quietly shaping the policy. The office lease. The corporate narrative surrounding return to office is largely centered on soft, I love that word, soft justifications, enhanced communication, team cohesion, managerial convenience. Yet 40% of business leaders in the resume.org survey admitted that making better use of paid for office space is a core reason they're mandating in-person attendance. That number climbs when lease agreements are considered directly. Among companies that lease office space, more than half acknowledge that those agreements are affecting their policy decisions, with 16% citing them as a major influence. So now you know why they want control, because they have already paid for their properties.
Real estate is one. Civic or municipal tax breaks is second. So some corporate offices were enticed or negotiated lower, if zero taxes or property, depending on if it's a building or just a corporation, where they would get tax breaks because they're bringing people into usually the downtown of a city or an area. And with that, you get a huge tax break, but there's conditions sometimes on that, depending on the leverage you have. And one of those is the office occupancy has to be at a certain threshold, 70%, 80%. And if it's below that, you lose the tax break.
Yeah.
So you have to come back in the office so we continue to get a tax break.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The article goes on to talk about some of the things that companies are doing, because they're saying that they're adopting kind of hybrid models. They say organizations are instead adopting new approaches like hot desking, rotating team schedules, and purpose-built teamwork hubs. These are not gestures of generosity towards remote work. They're responses to unavoidable economic logic. Long leases are expensive artifacts of a different era. A transformation is coming, not just in policy, but in how companies define the workplace altogether, which I think is really interesting.
100%, yeah.
Offices won't disappear, but their function and footprint will look markedly different. The remote and hybrid era isn't just a blip. It's business decision that makes strategic sense, especially when weighed against the cost of empty square footage. And I think that's part of where we are, is in this sort of like reimagining, reformulation of even what an office is and what collaboration is with your work. And in what you were reading, you said something about like you're called into work to be on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
And this is one of like one of those times I think when people really feel it is that the majority of meetings are online and you're all in your own offices logging into an online meeting.
On a laptop.
And so it's really hard to sit in an office that took you an hour to get to and an hour to get home from.
With a portable computer.
To be on a virtual meeting and to be told that you need these casual connect when you're not actually casually connecting. So this idea of being open to this transformation, I think, is really interesting. I think that's one of the most interesting things we're going to see in the next couple of years is what that looks like, right? What is when your workmates are in other parts of the world? Like what's an office?
100%. And then speaking of the future and now, but also the workplace, one of our favorite people, Alison Venditti, is out there talking about what they're doing, which is Moms at Work, and they have been pushing for 7 years now. Advocating
organizing
for a lot of things. So part of them advocating, Ontario, where we are here, shifted it with the Employment Standards Act. By the way, I love it. Employment Standards Act, what I used to walk around with at the movie theater in my back pocket. Love it.
A policy smartass.
Hey, you can't
teenager.
book off Boxing Day, and then Scott would pull out the pamphlet out of his pocket. I'm like, oh, I believe you're wrong.
That's very nerdy.
Except so many managers in like hospitality they were at least then they're just dumb.
So nerdy.
It's like you can't do that. I'm like, because you said so.
Government policy in your back pocket.
Just pull it out.
Nerd.
Section 7-6. Look, I getting out of work is my nerdiest move. I will go to government archives to get out of work.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I will go to the depths of
carrying
this.
around policy.
So let me show you what they have helped push here when it comes to pay transparency and a bunch of other great stuff. So one thing is you need to post, your job posting has to have a salary information starting January 1st of this year, has to have salary information. It's also compensation range information. If an employer provides a range of compensation, such range must not exceed $50,000. Because what places would do
like $1 to $200,000.
They would say $1 to $1 million.
Oh, that's a great range. Thank you.
We have filled the requirements.
Yeah,
so
of course.
that's their FU to people. Next thing is Canadian experience. Employers are prohibited from including requirements relating to, quote, Canadian experience in publicly advertised job postings.
Yeah.
That's, having somebody come over here and really they have all the qualifications that you're
supposed to
have.
for newcomers to Canada.
100%. Use of AI. Employers who use AI to screen, assess, or select applicants for the position must include a statement disclosing the use of AI in the publicly advertised job posting.
That's the rule, folks.
Fantastic. Existing vacancy. Employers must include a statement in the publicly advertised job posting disclosing whether or not the posting is for an existing position vacancy.
Okay, so it's been a really long time since I've applied for a job, but do they usually put out applications for jobs that don't exist?
So that's one of the issues.
Confused.
Okay, so one of the issues is how you get around certain laws.
Okay.
Is by saying we have it's this many vacancies, right? So it's just like we have the vacancy because it's about one of the things is about getting the immigration policy and pay.
Yeah.
Right, where you have a part where the government has a certain pay level that is subsidized if nobody here can do the job.
Okay.
Right, so I don't exactly know under the vacancy side where it
interesting.
goes. I'm trying to figure out where it goes. It's something, and then information to applicants after interview. This is crazy to me that this is now law, which is so good. I never thought it would be.
You have to get back to people, right?
If an employer interviews an applicant for a publicly advertised job posting, the employer must, within 45 days after the date of the last interview, inform the interviewee whether a hiring decision has been made in respect of the job posting.
Nice.
That you just don't ghost somebody all the time. So you have one side of the world of hiring and recruiting and HR, which was my bag back in the day, who's been trying to then obviously do more tech, more screening, and I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
To now AI will do all of it on that side of it. To the other side of people just saying, applicants saying, can we just be treated as human beings?
Yeah. And then on the other side of it, applicants using AI to make their application.
Yeah, so I'm going to look in more to the vacancy
It's a lot of
part,
computers talking to each other.
But that's what Alison and moms at work have been fighting for.
Yeah, they've been
as well.
advocating for it and fighting for it and celebrating it.
There are certain parts of this that means it's a certain level of revenue or federal company. There's certain obviously qualifiers to it, and obviously the Employment Standards Act has to cover that part of the job. But it's really cool to look at these things and say, yeah, we should have been doing these things.
Yeah, and also if you're an entrepreneur and you're posting jobs for your company or a small business, know that these are the rules.
Yeah,
and it's your responsibility to look up the rules when you're posting the jobs and stick to them.
And if you find a job and it doesn't do it, then you take a step if you want. There's places you can go and say they're not following the rules and follow it.
Yeah.
Or don't. Either way.
Yeah, and if you want to change things, get together with other people, like Alison did.
Like Alison did there. Amazing. So kudos to you and moms at work and to anybody who is fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
Keep on going.
This was fun.
It was. Thank you all for
take care of
forgiving us.
yourself.
You do
See
something.
you next time.
Go.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and visit theunpodcast.com. And remember, friends don't let friends use QR codes.